What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we're gonna be doing some tuning today, or at least adjusting the fuel tables, going through the data log, stuff like that. And first, we need to understand a couple of things, right? For your tune to work properly, you gotta make sure all your mechanical part is working properly, and you don't have any electrical problems, because you're not gonna fix it with the tune. If something in the engine is wrong, the tune is not gonna fix the problem. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're gonna be running closed loop. Now, closed loop is a tool. You don't run your tune on closed loop. So what I mean by that is you're gonna set your targets for closed loop, and you want to be on your tune as close, or your fuel map as close as you can to your targets without the closed loop kicking in. Or if it kicks in, it's just 1%, 2%, stuff like that, right? So closed loop is not your tune. You're not gonna be just doing a half-ass fuel and just run it on closed loop all the time. That's not the proper way to do it. Like I said, closed loop is a tool, and we're just gonna use it to adjust our tune, and we can keep the closed loop on, and there is good reasons to keep it on. For example, so let's say there is a leak that starts in the fuel tank. When you're on boost, fuel pressure goes up and you lose pressure from that, right? So what closed loop is gonna do, if you're on full boost making a pull, is gonna compensate for that loss of fuel, and that's gonna keep the engine safe. That doesn't mean we're gonna keep running it like that, but if we see a big difference where your tune was fine and closed loop was just adding about 2-3% to your tune, and different temperatures and changes, but out of nowhere it just starts adding 15-20%, we have a problem there, right? So closed loop is compensating for something that is happening. So we got to trace the problem, fix the problem, so our tune can go back to normal. You're not gonna start just changing your tune out of nowhere because the closed loop is compensating all that. You're just gonna add 20% to it. So the other thing, make sure all your calibrations are right, all your sensors are reading properly. And that if everything is reading properly, once you set up your tune, your fuel table, and all that, and you start seeing changes on it, changes that you never seen before because it was running fine, that means there is an exterior problem that you need to solve before you start messing with this. So you're just getting your data. Your data is gonna help you diagnose problems. Okay, so next step is gonna be driving the car. You just gotta be driving normal, up and down. Make sure you're data logging. And for example, I added a data log button on the screen. So if I want to start data logging to fix a little spot right there, I just start data logging and start driving through that spot a little bit. Or it's highway driving, for example. You just wanna get that nice air fuel ratio, that it runs smooth and all that. You just start like driving around. The more you data log, the more data you're gonna have, of course. And we're gonna try to do as much adjustments in one log as we can. So we're gonna be driving around, drive through the gears, drive a little bit of highway, and then save that log, and then we're gonna get on the computer. Okay, so we're gonna get on the laptop now, open our FT manager. We're gonna plug our USB cable, and we wanna make sure we're using the map that we just data logged. So we're gonna open map from ECU, the active one, that's the one we're data logging. Okay. Okay, so now we're on our software. We're gonna open the data logger. and download the log that we just did. It's gonna take, depending on how long it is, it might take a couple of minutes, nothing crazy. This one's a little bit long. I don't have a lot of adjustments to do, just little stuff here and there, but same basics apply. So we're gonna go through the whole thing. Okay, now we have our data log in the computer and the map that we were using. So we're gonna go sit down somewhere else. You can take your laptop with you now. Get comfortable, get you a coffee. All right, let's open the map and I'm gonna show you a couple of things that need to be, like I said, first of all, you need to make sure everything is reading right. You can go to closed loop, get your adjustments, do your targets. My closed loop or my gauge, uh, my gauge reads right, but it shows like 2 points off in here, so I'm accounting for those 2 points. If you see 11.7 here, that's actually 11.5 on the gauge. So that's why this might seem a little lean for some people. But yeah, you're just gonna set your targets. Gonna go data log. On the limits, I don't like to allow it to pull too much fuel out, but I like it to add fuel if it needs it. Okay, so we're on our data log. We got all our settings straight. We got our targets set. And you can see here, I got all my data. This is a small pool that I made. This was losing traction right here. We can go to the traction section. Now I have rear wheel speed. So this is the front tire. This is the rear tire. This is how much slip I was getting. And you can see the over here how much timing it was pulling, how much ignition it was pulling on this one. It was cutting ignition very little, but it was pulling timing on all this section, right? All this purple one is pulling timing. But what we're doing today is just adjusting fuel. So let's take a look at this. This looks pretty good. All this section is very close with him target. We're gonna find a spot that actually needs adjustment. This is another pull right here. Right here. You can see that it's a little bit off target, right? So what we're looking at here is our actual O2, which is right here. It's 11.4. So in my gauge, it was actually 11.2. This gets richer. 11, around 11.2. So I want my target to be 11.7, which in reality is 11.5. And we can see that it is pulling about 2% on all this section. So we're gonna check it out. We're gonna go to our Fueltech overlay and we're gonna see which cell is that. So we can see we're like right on this cell and it's pulling 2% and it's still a little bit rich. So we're gonna hit that cell and we're just gonna pull whatever it's pulling in here. I'm not gonna pull more than that. I'm just gonna be doing slowly. This is the safest way to do it. So you can either go to multiply, or you can hit the cell and press M. Now this is where people sometimes get confused. I want to take 2% off, so that will be 0.98. If you go 0.98, it takes 2%. If you 0.95, it takes 5%. If you want to add fuel, you press 1. Let's say I want to add 1%, so you do 0.1. That's 1%. If you want to add 20%, you do 1.2. Okay? So at 1 point whatever, that's how much percentage you're adding. If you do 0.99, it takes 1%. So the point, only the 0 point down, it takes fuel. So we're gonna take 2%, right? 0.98. Before you start changing anything, make sure you're pulling exactly what you need, right? I need 2% less, so okay, before I hit press, okay. That's on that cell right there. And then we can see that it gets leaner and it goes over, but it is still pulling on the correction. Like you can see the correction right here, it's still pulling fuel, minus 94. So I'm not gonna adjust that. What's doing is it's the time that it takes to pulling fuel from here, and then it goes into this one. It's taking a little longer, so it's still pulling fuel by the time it gets here. And once we fix this one, this is gonna get closer to zero, zero correction. So this might get closer to target because we're gonna be pulling as much fuel on this side. Now it's most likely gonna take a little more than 2%. So you're gonna have to make another pull and make sure that it's within the target, and it's not pulling fuel, or it's as close to zero as, again, it can be 0.5 or even 1%. Is not too bad. It depends on like size of injectors too. If you're running smaller injectors, the percentage makes a difference, because 1% in a smaller injector is going to be a very small amount as compared to a bigger injector. But that's basically the science behind it. You just change it here, you go through your whole data log. You can see here, we can see that is a little rich, a little bit more rich than what target would like, and we can see that it's moving back and it starts getting closer to target. So the cell that we need to adjust is gonna be this one right here, and we can see that this one is pulling 2%. So same process, M 0.98 that pulls 2% of the cell. Okay, so this whole table is gonna need adjustment. Basically, this whole section down here is a little bit rich. You can see here it's also a little rich on this, so we can see the limit is pulling 2%. We're gonna pull 2% out of that one too. M 0.98. Okay, so it's not gonna get us to target, but it's gonna get us really close to it. So we're gonna be doing small adjustments. This is for just to be safe. You don't want to start guessing and pull 5%, and then it might be too lean. Then your correction is gonna be positive, so it's gonna be adding fuels, and you gotta go back again. It's better to do small adjustments until you get to your target. So we can see all these sections the same thing. That one, same 2%. We're gonna pull him 0.98. Okay. And over here, we let off the gas. And it goes pretty rich on this section, but we're not gonna mess with this section yet. This is mostly like deceleration. I have it on fuel cut up, so it's gonna cut the fuel at one point. So I'm not messing with that. Don't really care about it. But we go back to this one. We can see that cell is around the same section, so that cell was already adjusted. Do not touch it again. Then most of it's Waham target. I'm gonna start looking at this one, and this one is pulling 3%, but it's really close to the bottom one, so this kind of interlap. So I'm gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna data log first again. Make sure I don't pull too much fuel out of it. Get to this point, same thing. We can see that the richest cells are gonna be these ones down here, so I don't want to mess with these ones yet until I make sure that all this is within target, right? Without pulling too much fuel, because if you pull fuel from here and then pull fuel from here, it might make it too lean. So yes, all this section is pretty much cruising, I believe. Let's take a look at the speed. Dramatic. Where is my speed? Hold on. Wheel speed right here. So yeah, this is 73 miles an hour. This is cruising on the highway in 6th gear. We have a section here. Let's see. Zero correction. So this is all with him target right here. I'm gonna keep looking over here. We can see that it gets off target again. Gets pretty rich on this section. So then again, I'm just gonna check how much this cell is pulling. This is -2. It's mostly gonna be down here. That is a little rich, but but we can see that when it starts getting rich, it gets on the next cell right here. So we're just gonna pull that 2% out. M 0.98. Okay. So we see that all this little section right here from like cruising, it was a little bit rich. And that's mostly all you do. Like I said, once you get your data straight and everything is reading right, it's a lot easier to adjust. Now all I do is send it to FT Manager, and that gets on my map. Now you save that map and upload it to your Fueltech again, and you're running on that map. You start datalogging again and doing the same thing. Never go back to the previous log to adjust, because you're gonna fuck it all up. There's this option here, the auto correction overlay. Do not use this when you send this to your map. Sometimes it throws it off completely. It gives you an idea of where it needs adjustments. You can look at it and have a basic idea of what you need to adjust in here. Now you can see here that most of my corrections are like really small, nothing super crazy. But yeah, never send this to your FT Manager. Sometimes it throws your map completely, and you have to like redo the whole thing. It's a good tool to use it to check your the section that you need to adjust, but don't go off that. Don't never send that to your FT manager. Okay, so we adjusted that part of the fuel table, and we use that data log that we just did, right? So we go back to our Fueltech, we plugged it in, and then we're just gonna write on our ECU, and we can see it. And it's good to go. Now we're gonna repeat the process. The best thing you can do is do it in small steps. Don't go too crazy adjusting fuel, because sometimes it just throws everything off and you have a harder time to adjust it. So just be patient, do little by little. Especially if you're just starting to adjust fuel and learning how to this work, I would recommend you go with smaller steps. And so, like I said, now you go data log again and go through your whole log, adjust again, send it to your fuel, send it to your map, load it in your car, go drive again. Avoid doing like crazy accelerations, stuff like that. Do as smooth as you can, because when you're accelerating up and down on the fuel, on the pedal, what's gonna do is probably gonna activate your acceleration, fuel enrichment, and decay and all that. So try to go as smooth as you can on the pedal. Try to maintain the RPM, go slowly up, go slowly down when you're data logging, so you can have good data to work with. And on the load side, once you start like pushing more, just remember you gotta pull timing from all that section and just start slow. Start making pulls from like 2000 to 3500 RPM, and data log that, adjust that, then go a little more, go to 4000, adjust that, and just keep going like that until you can make a full pull on full throttle. Like your fuel is looking good, you're reaching your rev limiter, and you're like confident that most of your fuel is gonna be okay, and then you go to a 7500. Remember, with the timing pull down, you don't want to start adjusting fuel with your timing super high, because you're probably gonna blow it up. So once your fuel is good, you can start playing with the timing. Now timing, that's a little bit more complicated. That will depend on the kind of fuel, your setup. Not every engine is the same. Some like take a little more, some take a little less. So it's gonna be really difficult to properly tune it without any type of knock detection or dyno. But you can, it can be done. Like I did mine on the street without knock detection or dyno. Just filling it, playing it safe. I mean, yeah, I was leaving a lot of power out because I couldn't push the timing that I needed to push to make the engine run at its full potential, basically. So that's when I got on the dyno. I got me that knock detective, which actually works pretty good, and we were able to push more power. Now we found a limit on the 3-port with that spring, so now we put a 4-port boost controller. So I'm gonna get it back on the dyno and add more boost and tune all that section. I'll probably make a video and explain a little more on how I'm doing this. But yeah, I mean, if you're just adjusting fuel, it's not super hard. Just like I said, pull timing down and start playing with it. Because if you go lean and you're pushing the timing too high, you might damage your motor. So